Hey everyone, this is Jay, also known as Jaynemesis on eToro, where I trade as a popular investor, and this is our weekly update for week 46 of 2018. Our top news this week, there has been a big correction in crypto again, and there is also, of course, an update on the current war in Bitcoin Cash. So first of all, I mean, these two subjects kind of go hand in hand, so I guess I'll sort of talk about them as one big thing. There has been, I think, two big reasons that have kind of, or maybe three even, that have caused this drop recently in cryptocurrencies. The first is, of course, the war that's been going on in Bitcoin Cash, the hash war, as it's being called by so many. So this has effectively come to a conclusion now. The fork is over. Effectively, Bitcoin ABC won with quotation marks, although, as Roger Ver pointed out himself, there are really no winners in a war. Just people who lose less than others. And ABC is certainly in that position. They actually had to do a lot of pretty controversial things to defend their chain during this hash war, which includes effectively centralizing a bit to vet blocks to make sure that they couldn't be reversed. Now, there weren't replay attacks available for the SV chain to carry out on it. Since then, the hash power for SV has dropped substantially. It's really kind of fallen off a bit of a cliff. There are very few places that are listing SV currently. Those that are have actually put up disclaimers saying that it's a very, very high risk asset and that they can't guarantee that there won't be problems with it in the future and things like that. So very few exchanges have done that yet. Bitcoin Cash still isn't open for trading on eToro at the moment, but hopefully it will be in a couple of days or maybe even a week's time. A lot of people, again, are pretty angry about this on eToro, but if you're one of the people that is copying me and perhaps has positions in Bitcoin Cash yourself, honestly, this is the sensible thing for eToro to do. There are still very, very substantial risks to allowing Bitcoin Cash trading on eToro. So I actually really support eToro's decision not to open it up for trading just yet. So the end result, of course, of this war is that we have diminishing trust in proof of work based cryptocurrencies, or at least this is certainly what we're hearing from the non-proof of work side of crypto. So the fans of XRP, XLM, EOS, and all sorts will, of course, very quickly point the finger at proof of work as being the big problem, which even allowed this situation to happen. In reality, I don't think that is actually as big of a driver as many people think it is. I do think that it's proven a point about that, proof of work is only really viable at very, very large scale when it's clear that there are so many parties involved that no one can really have that much control. But so obviously that kind of rules out Bitcoin and probably Ethereum as well. But outside of that, it does seem like it is a viable way of attacking smaller cryptocurrencies, even as big as Bitcoin Cash, which was fourth in its rankings on CoinMarketCap. So overall, it's not great news. The sentiment is definitely down a bit on proof of work cryptocurrencies as a result. I'm not sure how much, and I don't think that most of that sentiment is really aimed so much at Bitcoin as it is towards Bitcoin Cash and other cryptocurrencies a little bit lower down. The second big theme that I've noticed, which I think is causing this substantial drop, is effectively what we've seen happening in Ethereum and in the securities kind of area. So the SEC have actually taken action against two different ICOs over on Ethereum that are being fined and basically have been asked to refund all of their users, including even users that sold their cryptocurrency and left the project a while ago and maybe took losses. This is having a pretty dramatic effect. There's a very substantial lack of trust in ICOs now. Even projects that ICO'd a very, very long time ago, even projects that have actually delivered on what they said that they would ICO, it feels to me like there's definite concern that they could be considered securities and they could be asked to refund all the money. And what does that mean for the development of the project? What does that mean for, the utility tokens that are used on those things? Can they still operate? So there's a lot of questions that are kind of up in the air at the moment. I mean, they did go after two pretty scammy ICOs, in my opinion. But certainly it does leave it open for them to potentially go after something bigger, like perhaps Augur, which, as you know, is an example of what I just pointed out, a project that has delivered on what it said it would do, with a pretty decent product. So, of course, the overall effect that this has created on the market is, again, diminished trust in ICOs. Not only ICOs, but also facilitators of ICOs, ICO platforms, as it were. So, Ethereum obviously is the big one, but projects like Lisk, ADA, EOS, Cardano, all of these have, at least to some extent, been affected by this as well. So, this is effectively what's driven the market to react for the most part in the way that it has. It wasn't the catalyst for this move, by the way, but I think it definitely is. It definitely is what's influencing people's decision making during this crash, and which cryptocurrencies are crashing more than others. And that's reflected when you look at something like Ripple, for example, or XRP, I should say. So XRP has been one of the most resilient cryptocurrencies in the top 10 to this. Second place behind them actually is Stellar. Again, another cryptocurrency that doesn't use that consensus mechanism and hasn't built their entire use case around the idea of ICOs and tokenization and things like that. So it's an interesting time. I do think that this will, for the most part, blow over. I'm pretty sure that Bitcoin is going to come back very, very strong after this. I don't think that the hash war is really a major threat to some of the more substantial current cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Likewise, I don't think the SEC is going to go overboard with regulating ICOs. I don't think that they're likely to just go and shut down projects that are clearly actually delivering on what they said and have taken reasonable precautions. But it's not a great time if you are someone that has been investing in those ICOs. The third thing that I just want to touch on is, of course, the ongoing kind of sentiment of we need to shake out the weak hands, get rid of all the rubbish shitcoins from the industry, shake out all of these terrible projects, the bad ICOs, the scam artists, the paid channels that give you trading advice, all of these sorts of things, shake up the market and make sure that only the good people are left. And it really does feel like that's what the industry is doing at the moment. That's what the market is doing right now, is putting pressure on anyone who doesn't understand what they've invested in, anyone who is slightly unsure of what they've invested in. And you see it on eToro, you see it on Twitter, you see it everywhere at the moment, including even my own family who have listened to my advice on investing in certain cryptocurrencies are now questioning it, and they're thinking, you know what, this has gone down a lot, an awful lot. And maybe it's not going to work. Maybe the technology doesn't work. Maybe it's overvalued. Maybe it's not going to change the world. I totally reject that statement. I think that cryptocurrencies are absolutely pivotal. They are a huge changing force that will sweep through most industries within the next few years. I still stick by looking at fundamentals on top of everything else for cryptocurrency. Yes, this bear market has been pretty bad, especially for a lot of my copiers and my positions myself. But I look at this with a long-term view, and in the long term, I don't see this not working, and I'm still very, very confident in all of the cryptocurrencies that I currently hold. So, yeah, I mean, I guess my advice is to try and keep calm. I know it's very, very stressful. This is the kind of point where you start to get restless lights and you start to think, you know, have I just wasted it all? And you kind of head into this despair. If you've ever seen that chart of the bubble chart, you were kind of heading down into that despair bit before we kind of go back up and return to the mean. I think it's important to try and stay level-headed and to try and, you know, think long-term about your investment and you know what you're really looking for from copying me, from investing in cryptocurrencies, whatever you're doing at the moment. I think it's worth looking at it from a kind of holistic perspective and sort of deciding if you're willing to stick with it basically for the long run, and really reassessing those core fundamental values that support cryptocurrencies as a good investment for the long run. So now that I've kind of put that disclaimer and that sort of almost depressive thoughts into your head, we'll go into the trading stats. They aren't actually as bad as you may have thought for this week. Minus 1.76% portfolio change, realized loss of minus 0.54%. 27 positions were closed, 19 profitable and 8 unprofitable. Our most traded assets this week were both Etsy and Bitcoin. So starting off, Bitcoin Cash, 2 short positions. This was ahead of the hash war that was coming up. One worked out pretty well, the other didn't. We ended up with a small overall win, 6.22% profit and minus 4.86% profit respectively. Next up is EOS, one loss of 19.71%, closed at 440. The reason I put the closed prices on some of these is to kind of point out that these were closed at actually pretty sensible levels when you go and look at the markets right now. A lot of people were questioning me on these closes when I did them. These are the first closes that I've done above that 10% threshold. And the reason is that I genuinely did see the likelihood of this market dipping further. And I thought I need to protect against this with the positions that it's sensible to do so with. So that's what I did. Same story again for Stellar. So one loss of 20.02%. This one wasn't quite as good since Stellar actually performed reasonably well during this drop. Although it has kind of fallen off a bit today as I'm recording this video, which I'm sorry I'm late, by the way. I know it's a Tuesday, but hey. Bitcoin, 5 positions closed here. I know it says 5 losses. That's wrong. There were 4 losses and 1 profit. So this is actually kind of split into 2 camps. There were a few long-term positions that were closed, and there were some effectively day trades and swing trades that were closed. So the day trades and swing trades actually came out basically slightly profitable, with one closed at minus 0.73, one at minus 1.66, and one closed for a profit of 2.71, which actually meant that across those 3 trades we were slightly in profit again. From the day trading side of things, the other 2 positions were closed for the same reason as EOS and Stellar, so minus 26% and minus 32.14%. The positions that were all closed here were closed at around the $5,500 to $5,600 level overall. So really, when you look at where the price is now, that's a pretty good price. I'm actually pretty happy that I closed those out when I did. I did also, some of those positions were short positions, the day trades. They just didn't work out. They kind of hit their stop loss before the market moved down. That's the way it goes sometimes. Next up, we have the interesting one, I guess, for a few of you guys, XRP. So as I've written in the text here, do not adjust your screens. This is a real trade that I did. So we went for a swing trade actually on XRP. So not quite a day trade. I was more, I had a nice target in mind, and I actually expected it to take around a week, but it was a lot quicker than that. Closed for a profit of 4.88% after just a couple of days. So this was a long position, my first long position in XRP. A few people have called me hypocritical for changing my mind on XRP and selling out on my principles. In reality, my principles remain the same, which is research, look at the technology, look at the fundamentals, look at the growth of the project. Look at the risks and weigh it all up. And although I'm still very unhappy with some of the centralized aspects of XRP, they have improved enough on some of the other areas that I'm happy to go long on it these days. It's still not a big part of my personal portfolio at all yet, but that may change potentially in the future. So this is hopefully going to be the first of several long trades on XRP. If you want to see my reasons for it, there is a tweet which I will post in the comments for this video. On to the stocks. So we had a pretty reasonable week for stocks, actually, pretty good, I would say. Starting off with Activision, a profit of 0.29%. This is effectively a manual stop loss. We were sitting at around about 1% profit, I think, and I decided to manually close this out as a stop loss because it just wasn't performing how I wanted it to, and it looked like it could dive back into the red slightly, so I figured I'd just close it out for a small profit. Etsy, four profitable positions in Etsy. Some pretty nice profits here, actually. Just shy of 6%, 4.17%, 1.51%, and 1.53%. There was also a loss of 0.53%. So overall, pretty happy with how these went. Some good day trades and a couple of long-term positions closed here as well. AMD, again, similar story, some good day trading profits, 0.83%, 11.27%, which is a really nice one, 7.35%, and 1.58%. All of these were day trades. Very, very happy with the results there. I think this does go to show that if I really put my mind to it and I try, then I'm actually pretty good at trading, day trading some of the stocks that I'm invested in. So I think this is more evidence supporting that I can actively trade my long-term investments. Nasdaq 100. So 3 trades here, all of them profitable for 0.61, 0.51, and 1.39% profit. 2 of those were short, 1 was long. So a good mix there of exposure. Nothing massive here, but these trades are still important to try and help sort of stabilize the portfolio, even though they are relatively low leverage. We also have a trade on the UK 100. So one position closed here, a short position closed here for 0.43% profit. Snapchat, yet again, another short position closed here. So I've been closing one a week at this rate. This one was closed for 1.22% profit into the green. Still a few more positions left, but I think I will be waiting a while longer before closing those ones. Onto page 2, and something that I don't normally trade if I can at all help it. Most of my experiences of trading this have been relatively bad, but I saw a really good opportunity, and I went with it on nice low leverage so that it wasn't too risky, and turned 1.32% profit from a trade in the GBP USD. So pretty happy about that, obviously following all the crazy stuff going on with the Conservatives and the government here in the UK around Brexit. Finally, the last trade for the week, Microsoft swing trade for 4.04% profit. Okay, so if we take a look at performance, you can see that November has turned red on the portfolio change, down by minus 3.49% and minus 1.76% for the week. If we head to realized trades, things still look a little bit more positive over there. November is still actually up in the green at 0.32% realized profit, with minus 0.54 from this week. So I think the goal with November with this drawdown has got to be to try and keep that realized profit somewhere around break even if possible. Although I think we're going to have a pretty rough ride with the cryptos over the course of the week. So onto the looking forward. As you can see, this is a bit bigger than is normally here. I wanted to kind of give you guys a bit of a warning and a disclaimer about the continuing bear market and the ongoing performance that I expect to see by the end of this year and going into next year. So first of all, I have taken some actions that you'll probably have seen by the time you're watching this video to try and protect the portfolio. Some of those positions that I mentioned earlier were just the start. I also closed some positions in Ethereum and Cardano and a few others. It is a big bear market that we're in right now, a very big bear market. This is actually I would say very comparable to how the sentiment was during the big correction that we saw back in 2013. And when we were halfway through 2014 and Bitcoin's at $200, it's down by over 80% on Bitcoin. Altcoins were basically dead for the most part. Apart from Ethereum, everyone had more or less given up on all of them. And it's difficult. It's very, very difficult if you're someone that's new to trading, new to investing, or new to the technology. So if you're someone that doesn't really fully understand cryptocurrencies and you're just kind of trusting people like me or the other people around you on eToro or within your community, then it's difficult for you to kind of justify it, and you start second guessing yourself and saying, well, is there anything going on here? Are people actually using this technology? Is it going to be used by businesses? Is it going to be used as as a way of controlling shares and buying and selling houses and shared ownership and things, and all of these use cases that we've seen presented to us? Those are the kind of things that you start to question. I undoubtedly think that is still the case, absolutely undoubtedly. I'm more convinced than I've ever been of most of those use cases. But the altcoin market especially is going to take a hammering. And we've started to see that this week. As soon as we saw that weekly candle fail to break out from Bitcoin, I had a suspicion that we could be in trouble. I said that we could see it go down to 4K before we reach the bottom. And it looks like now, as I'm recording this on Tuesday, a day late, it looks like that is now the case. So it's going to be some very, very difficult conditions for a while, and a lot of you are going to be very close to your stop losses, and it's effectively up to you on if you wish to, if you wish to change those or if you wish to keep them where they are. Some of you put a few $100s in and kind of took this as a punt, and understood the risks and thought, you know what, we'll see where it goes. Here's my stop loss. If you hit that stop loss, absolutely fine. If you don't want to be invested anymore, then that's up to you. Some of you perhaps have been more converted the longer you've been here. Some of you perhaps came in with your mind more on the long term than the short term. In that case, I would suggest potentially looking at changing your stop loss. You're not really saving yourself from that much at this point. I think it's pretty clear that the upside is now substantially higher than the downside in terms of risk. Or the other way around in terms of opportunity. So, I think taking yourself out of the game right now feels like a slightly strange move if you are still comfortable with the amount of money that you've got invested, and if you're still comfortable with the idea of potentially losing more of that in the short to medium term. I think if we actually look at my performance specifically on eToro, I think it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to finish above 40%, minus 40% for the year, which is terrible. It's my worst performance ever for a year of trading stocks and cryptos. But I think the circumstances are pretty interesting. Definitely, I'm still kind of frustrated with myself for not taking actions differently and maybe seeing some of the signs that we saw back in January, February, March kind of time. But regardless, we are where we are, and we haven't performed any worse than anyone who's hodling through it. So I'm pretty content in that knowledge, knowing that we haven't really actually lost out on anything either in terms of in Bitcoin. There's something that a lot of Bitcoin traders say, which is that they look at the success of their portfolio in the number of Bitcoin they have, not in the number of dollars they have. Effectively, they look at it in terms of Bitcoin value, not dollar value. They want to accumulate Bitcoins, not dollars. And I'm somewhat of that opinion as well, to be honest. And if we look at that Bitcoin value for our portfolio, it hasn't performed anything like as badly. And again, I've pointed out before that if we compare me to just holding Bitcoin directly or just holding Ethereum directly, again, it's not so bad. It looks a lot worse than it is. Comparative to my market, I have performed reasonably okay. Not as good as I should have, and I totally accept that, but not as bad as perhaps you may be thinking. So on that note, of course, I'm more than happy to answer any questions if some of you are concerned, or even if you just want a second opinion. I can't give advice, of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but even if you want a second opinion of, I was hoping to get my money out by X date, what do you think the chances are? Feel free to ask me that kind of question, and I will give you my opinion on it. It is just an opinion. As I say, so don't take it too seriously. But I'm more than happy to give it if you guys want it. Likewise, if you are scared about the progress of these projects and what's going on and the different effects, I'm more than up for discussing it and trying to explain it to you guys, which is what I try to do in these videos. But it's obviously it's a complex topic and it takes a lot of time to understand, and even more time to try and explain in I guess a user-friendly way. So I guess that's the only message I really have here is this is, for me, this is a long-term investment, and I'm absolutely bullish as anything on cryptocurrencies. Likewise on many of the stocks that I've invested in, AMD, for example. I don't care if that gets drawn down because I'm absolutely adamant from the way that they've designed their chips that they will have a substantial advantage going forwards. And the same is true of cryptocurrencies, in my opinion. So that's my view on it. As I said, ask me some questions, more than happy to answer it. Apart from that, I don't think there's really too much to say. Try and stay bullish. I'm still incredibly excited. If you follow my Twitter, you will have seen that excitement just leaking out everywhere. I'm so excited about what's going on in cryptocurrency at the moment. I'm getting more and more deeply involved in some of the communities, and for me, it's nothing short of revolutionary. And regardless of where the price goes in the short term, I think I'm going to be here for a while. So hopefully that gives some of you a little bit more confidence. It's going to be a tough tough end of the year, I think, and next year could be tough for a decent chunk of it as well. But we just need to try and get through it as a group, and take on the risk or don't take on the risk. Just be aware of the risks is the main message I'm trying to leave you with. Okay, that was I know it was a bit rambly, but that was the end of that rant. Hopefully you guys aren't feeling too demoralized by it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will of course update you again next week.